You can't be so species centric, you know, because
that's fair.
By human standards, yes, maybe turnips just aren't that sexy.
Butterscotch
Shenanigans. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 160 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth, and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, and I'm the hitter of email frequency limits.
I'm Sam, and I wrote the emails that got hit.
And this is a show where we talk about life, business, and working in the games industry. Today is July Quick Scream 2018.
Quick Scream?
Yeah.
16?
That's right.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Before we get started, we have a warning. Anything can happen on this show. There's going to be profanity, and we're going to talk about things that only people over the age of 27 care about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're 26, I'm sorry. We just don't have anything for you this week.
Yep.
So you should probably.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next time. All right. What's in the news? For starters, we got some fat tips from some of our listeners, and we'd like to offer our appreciation. It's Drell, Aragul, Joseph Catrambone.
Cool name. Good names.
They're all really good names.
And Nick the Fatfish gave us some tips over at tips.bscotch.net. So thank you very much for that. Very much appreciated.
Keeps our podcast lights on.
It does.
Yeah.
We can't podcast in the dark. It's just too hard.
Actually, we don't have the opportunity because these lights turn themselves on.
They turn themselves on automatically.
We keep turning them off.
And they keep billing us for it.
It's horrible. It's a trap.
All right. So in the news this week, we have a couple of really important things to talk about. One is that we're going to be upgrading our audio quality next week.
Probably.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because this is something. So this is going to go meta because we're going to talk about podcasting on this podcast.
Did you know there's like 1,000 podcasts about podcasting?
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a huge number of them. It just seems
people
wild.
need to think of some better shit to talk about.
We'll just write a book and be done.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about podcasts. So there's all kinds of interesting things that you don't realize you need to consider when you're piecing a podcast. You think I just need a microphone and then I'd sit around and talk. If you listen to our first handful of episodes,
That's what we did.
That's what we did, and that's why we don't make those episodes very available to the public because the audio quality is absolute garbage. So I think at the time we were also recording over Skype.
Yep.
We
all separately recorded.
We separately recorded.
We were talking over Skype.
Yeah, talking over Skype because there's lag, so we had to send our audio files together. I think our first couple episodes we just straight up recorded on Skype with lag and everything. Then we learned about fixing the lag, compiled our files. And then we realized, hey, we've been using our microphones wrong the whole time because different microphones have different.
Who knew?
They have different sensitivities, you know? And we had these really...
Like where you're supposed to put, because sometimes you need to be like 100 feet away from your microphone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to have it in your throat.
Yeah. And we had these Samson Meteor mics, which are fantastic mics. But they're not fantastic when they're 3 feet from your face, as it turns out.
They also pick up every sound in the room.
They pick up every sound in the room. So you need to be in a quiet place.
And you gotta put your lips on it.
You gotta put.
So we've come a long way since then. What's the point now? I guess.
So where we've hit now is we moved locations. We're in this office. What we didn't know is that underneath us, we're on the second floor. Underneath us, there's just a rat's nest of power cords.
There's a river of power.
There's a river of electricity.
And right next to us, there's also a data center.
There's a data center.
Yeah.
And apparently,
so there are bits flipping constantly.
These two things give off some sort of magic waves that affect microphones specifically.
Microphones just can't handle it. And so on top of that, we just as of maybe 2 weeks ago, a construction crew has started working across the street, and they are working on the top of a building. And their mechanism for getting materials up to the top of this building is to have one man at the bottom take a hook on a rope, hook a bucket, and then put stuff in the bucket, and then he pulls the rope, and there's the squeakiest fucking pulley in the universe. While he's like slowly, he's like,
I think it's up three or four stories. I think.
Yeah,
right?
he's hauling it
a
up,
long way.
He's hauling it up to the roof of a 3-story building, and then of course. What goes up must come down. The pole's got to come back down. Yeah.
And apparently it's a small bucket and they got a lot of stuff to move. That thing just all day.
It's a 5-gallon bucket. And they're doing like an entire construction job on top of this roof
with this bucket.
And so it's all day, every day, there's a screaming pulley. And so between the electrical interference on the microphones and the screaming pulley, we've had Fat Barg come in a couple times trying to figure out how to make our audio setup better. And it basically comes down to we need to get better microphones now. Like we've hit the limit of what it's possible. So next week we may have some you're gonna hear the buttery smooth honey.
Well, I think it was very funny because we moved to the new office. We were like, all right, we got this dedicated space. We could do it up. And then, Patrick comes in. He's like, all right, so you guys got
the worst possible space.
You got like a brick room.
Yeah.
It's just exposed bricks everywhere.
With windows on every single wall.
And then
we have a very high ceiling, but it's actually broken into sort of like a half ceiling in between that sounds can just bounce around freely.
Yes, with no insulation between us and the people above.
And then there's this river of power running through the whole thing. And then there's this screaming pulley outside.
And we're like, what? How is this? Is this good? We've already paid for it.
This is us. Yeah, this was us trying real hard.
So he came in here and he just put his head in his hands and he's just like,
Dude, okay.
But it turns out, with the right mics, anything is possible.
The right mindset, too.
Yeah. So, it's all about attitude.
Yeah. It's all about that attitude and using lots of noise cancellation software.
And knowledge about acoustics.
Yeah. But mostly it's the attitude.
Yep.
So we got that coming up. And then also today, we're going to play the Shenanigans games, which I'm pretty excited about. So I think, all right. So first of all, last year we did this and we used a meteor mic sitting on the table 4 feet away from everybody's face. And you can tell.
It was real bad.
If you watch that video, it does not sound
discerning listeners will be able to tell.
Also, if you're undiscerning.
real careful. To the naked ear, it's very hard to parse the difference.
But if you put earmuffs on.
Once your ears aren't naked anymore.
Also, I love the idea of a naked sensory organ. Because it has to be naked to work,
the naked eye.
Because your eye is always naked.
It is. But
not if you put glasses or contacts on it.
Yeah, once you put a telescope on it.
I don't know.
Although, if you put on clear clothes, people would probably still call you naked.
People would be like, that dude is super naked.
That's an interesting question. If you're wearing transparent clothes, are you naked?
Does naked, is it about visibility or is it about
warmth?
Buffering yourself from the environment?
I think it's mainly about visibility.
Because I guess if you like walk into
people wouldn't say that you're naked. They'd just be like, I can see.
Well, how about this one? All right, you walk into a bathroom, right? Someone's in the shower. Their shower curtain is clear. You point in there, like, there's a naked person, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but if
it's not clear, you're not going to point and say, "Look, there's a naked person."
Right, but they are naked.
No, they're not because you can't see them.
But the thing, you're always naked inside your clothes, right?
Yeah.
So we're all naked right now.
Yeah.
And a shower is just clothes,
Yeah, just like
a shower is just
apart.
Clothes made of water.
Yeah, just kind of like 3 feet away from you on all sides.
I don't know. I'm not buying it because I think the definition of being naked is being without clothes.
I think it's just visibility. I think it's the presence because what's nudity, right? Nudity is the presence of the naked form.
Yeah.
Which the naked form can be seen through transparent materials. So therefore you could wear transparent clothes, still be naked. Nakedness is not a function of coverage.
You would have visible nudity.
Yes.
Right? But are you naked?
Yes. That's what you're nude.
This is one of the age-old questions, I think, of the universe.
I like to say that we discuss, a lot of issues with a lot of nuance on this podcast.
And this is the most important one.
Nudity, nakedness. What is it?
What is it? How does it happen?
And as with all the rest, we don't have an answer.
No, we don't.
It's just too complicated.
All right, so I think we were talking about the Shenanigans.
Correct.
Yep.
So we're gonna try a new setup this time around, and I think the plan is we're gonna take the top 10 games, which is what we did last year,
as rated by the people.
Yes, probably
there were
not
1,600 ratings.
Yeah, so
awesome.
probably not including ours.
No,
because that's just too self-serving.
Yeah. Also, we already made a video about it.
We already made a video about it. We don't need to do that twice. And it's very hard to act surprised about what's happening in a game if you made it.
Correct. There is that.
And we're not good actors. So I guess we'll take games number 2 through 11. So that'll be pretty fun. And I think we'll put that video up probably by the end of this week. So keep an eye out for that. Last thing to talk about for the studio is Levelhead. I want to talk about the iterative nature of things.
Well, so last week we discussed co-op because Adam was, militant about
it was time.
co-op. And so Seth and I were like, no, and then we did it. So
it's done.
It's in now.
It's in there. And so now, we talk about how we don't like to plan our games. And in fact, I gave a GDC talk about it that some people didn't like.
It was just that one really angry professor.
Yeah, there were a couple people who were not pumped and one person who was real mad. Because it is probably true that if you're on a larger team, then planning becomes very important. That's why our team is small, because we don't like to plan and because it's very cumbersome. And also we have a firm belief that planning is pretending to know the future and then being wrong.
That's about right.
Yep.
That's basically what planning.
We do make a lot of plans, though.
We make a lot of plans, and
They're all
we're
wrong.
always wrong.
Yep.
So in the case of Levelhead, we're working on this game and we iterate a lot and we try to make sure that we keep an open mind about what the game could be and don't try to put it in a box. Just do what's fun. And so now that we've got the co-op in there, we added this auto running mode before co-op, where the player runs by itself, and then it becomes like an endless runner kind of a thing, and you hit a button to jump. And then once we put multiple players into runner mode, all of a sudden it felt like a race. So now we're like, I guess this is a race now. So now we got to update auto runner mode so that if you're playing it with multiple people, we add some kind of race mechanics. And then once we added the ability to punch each other using the power-ups, then we thought, well, obviously this needs to be basically a Smash Bros. Style brawling game mode, where instead of building a level, you're basically building
an arena
/ death trap. Because you could just set it up so that everybody gets 3 lives, kind of Smash Bros. Style or whatever, and just the last person alive wins. And since you can punch each other, since you can jump on each other's heads, and if you're doing this in a normal Levelhead level where there's also fireballs and enemies and all kinds of other horrible stuff trying to kill everybody, then this creates a really interesting new game mode, right? So we want to do that. And then we even talked about adding a golf mode, which I'm excited about.
The golf one's fun. Because you get to you sling your body all over the place and try to get to the goal.
Yeah, so your jump button goes
by
away.
par.
Your movement buttons go away. And instead you either use a joystick on a controller or you click on the character and sort of drag like an Angry Bird slingshot and you just hurl the character, and then we actually keep track of your strokes. And then your score is based on how many strokes it took you to
Now, my favorite part about this, though, is actually not any of the game modes, but what they suggested for editing levels. Because as soon as you get a multiple playing levels, you kind of want to be able to simultaneously edit them also. And so we have this little hand that you use to grab stuff and put in the level.
Yeah, because we thought, well, how like if you're building a multiplayer level, then how boring would it be for the other players, like the other 3 people, if while you're building the level, they have to just watch, So you'll make a change to the level and they'll just sit there, and then you hit play and then they can do stuff. Well, that's not good.
So ideally we have everybody gets a little hand, and then you can just start building this thing like a freaky sort of 4-person octopus situation.
Why not?
Why not?
There's probably good reasons, but we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. So I think I saw Airwith in our Discord quoted, I think, Adam from months ago on the podcast where we're like, yeah, this is definitely not a cooperative
definitely
game.
Not going to have multiplayer.
No multiplayer, none of that stuff. And now we're like, it's all about it. So,
but it's also best to make sure that people don't have any expectations
yeah, we always make sure that we say that we're never going to do something.
Yeah.
So all that stuff we just talked about, probably not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
We're excited about it.
We're excited about it. We're going to work on it. It's going to not turn out great, and then we'll scrap it.
Yep.
Which is how 3/4 of our ideas, at least, come about. So that's kind of where we're at with Levelhead. And I think it's just important to kind of recognize that everybody's got their own dev style, And so while some people are all about planning and design docs and stuff like that, we just have our own kind of weird way of doing stuff. And it's something that I've been talking about on my Saturday morning game dev streams as people coming in and asking questions about like how we make stuff. And honestly, it's very, I mean, the name of my GDC talk was designed by chaos for a reason, which is that we just kind of make crap up as we go. And then eventually we just decide that the game has enough things and it's time to release to the public. Which is why also we still don't have a release date or alpha test date or any kind of date for Levelhead. So that's kind of where things are at with that. Otherwise, industry news, Pixel Pop is happening. That's the game development festival. It used to be game dev music and pop culture.
Yeah, it's just game dev.
I think now it's just game dev. And that's in St. Louis. It's happening
Is this
in
year 3 or 4?
I think this is 4.
Year 4.
So, yeah.
That's happening in 2 weekends. And I'd say the quality of the convention has gone up and up year over year. And so if you're in this general area, kind of the Midwest, we actually had somebody drive from Connecticut last year, which was super cool. And so I think at least one of us will be wandering around at any given time. We aren't demoing anything and we're not giving any talks. We're just going to kind of have a presence there. So if you'd like to meet us, then come on over to Pixel Pop. Come say hello. All right, Sam, there's something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I need a word. So
long-term satisfaction word.
Exactly. So this is this problem. So on Friday night, left the office and I go to the track. Okay. To run.
Okay. Not like a horse racing track.
Not a horse racing, a man racing track.
A man racing track. Did you see man race this weekend?
I meet up with a few of my friends and we do sprints. Okay. Sprints are the worst thing almost ever.
But at least they're over fast.
Yes, which is why I do them. So instead of running for 20 minutes, you just nearly vomit after 15 seconds.
So is the idea that if you run just for any amount of time, you experience the same amount of sadness no matter what?
Yeah. So just sort of you crunch it down.
So you crunch it all in to a 10-second window. You get real sad all at once, and then it's over.
Yeah. So I haven't done this in a long time. So we only did 4 of them, 400-meter sprints, whatever. And absolutely brutal. Nearly vomited every single time.
400s are the worst of the sprints.
4 100s.
Okay.
Not 4 400s.
All right.
That would have been
you have me worried there. That's a quarter of a mile. That's slightly too long.
No, this is literally 1 lap in total. Cool. Over the course of about 30 minutes.
Oh, great.
So we'd run one and then be like, and then just stand there for a while and then go back to it again. So very graceful, a lot of power on display.
I like the idea. Just seeing like a group of guys running and then just standing there and be like,
So we wrap this up. And walk into the car, my whole body hurts, feel like vomiting, my nose is kind of tingly. And I'm like, there's no word for this because I feel absolutely horrible right now. But I know that this is super good for me in the long term. It's not contentment, right? Because that's like presently I'm just feeling good about everything.
Right, because you're in the just worst possible mental state.
I'm generally in a lot of pain, but I know that there's a payoff later, and that's exactly why I did it, right? It's kind of like if you sit down, if you sit down, and you write, or like I drew yesterday for 3 hours, and then I sit up and like my neck kind of hurt, and my hand was like a little, been holding a pencil.
It's like, so it's the pain of investment.
Yeah, it's like what? There's no, but
pain,
you feel good.
Pain vesting.
Well, I don't know if
because you're vesting your pain.
That's just investing. Yeah.
I don't know if it should be framed in the negative though.
But you seem to be centering it around.
Well, I mean,
pain.
There's a lot of pain involved. But I'm saying like that term for when you're kind of exhausted from doing a thing, but that there's some long term gain.
So then you're talking about the feeling of being aware of that fact.
Of that,
where you're like, I did the thing that I needed to do, even though it sucked, and there's going to be something.
Yeah, it's knowing that this sucks now, but it's for the best.
Yes.
What?
That's what I'm saying. You got no word for it. No wonder it's so hard to do.
There's a word for the satisfaction of seeing somebody else get hurt, which is Schadenfreude or whatever.
Yeah. But there's not a word for this.
There's not a word for feeling good about doing something that sucked and knowing that it was awesome and it will be awesome in the long run.
Yeah. I got nothing.
I can't think of
I was thinking about it. I was like, I feel like I'm just missing one of these terms. There must be something.
I mean, we talk about how that's what willpower is, or not like that's not the feeling you're talking about, but in sort of the the concept is willpower is giving up short-term satisfaction for long-term gains.
So maybe willpower is just seeking this feeling that doesn't have a term.
I think that's what it is.
You know?
Yeah. Because it's like once you
willpower is hurting yourself, but for the
usually,
or I'm not going to eat cookies.
Yeah, or denying yourself in some way. Right?
Yeah, denying yourself the short-term pleasures of life.
Exactly, but there's no word for that output, which is okay. So you use your willpower to do.
I think maybe investing is kind of.
But it's not even remotely the case because, like, in investment context, because
it is investment, but
it is investment.
But it's about the feeling of having just invested.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you just have less money.
You're saying
like in a financial sense, now you have less money.
So you're saying like when I get my paycheck and I see how much went into my 401k and how much I don't get to have.
Exactly.
That the feeling in that moment.
That's the investment. That's the pain.
I'm like, damn it. I could have bought so many Switch games.
But then you also follow it up with,
yes.
Now my future is more secure.
But in 50 years, I can buy even more Switch games.
Like 5 of them even.
If assuming it might not be a thing at that point.
Who knows?
You know, the Switch 100. Although I guess Nintendo doesn't play that game of just putting numbers on things. So.
Intel Laser Eye games.
Oh yeah, Laser Eye games. Those will be a thing.
So because it is an investment. You're correct.
Right. So you're not talking about the concept. You're talking about the feeling.
You're talking 100% about the feeling.
So you can say like, you're like, I'm feeling so pissed right now. Like insert feeling.
Where basically it's like, I did the thing that was hard and it hurts so bad right now, but I know it's going to be good later. That's what I want in one word.
Maybe smugness.
It's almost
smug right now.
That's close. It's almost smug.
Good for you.
It's like self-smug, future smug.
Self-smug.
No, that doesn't work.
Is there any other kind of smug?
I don't know. I got to think about it. I didn't know if maybe you guys would just have something. I guess not.
Maybe we have a German listener who has a German word for because I guarantee there's a German
get
word
on
for
this. Or they
really
already got on it.
They've got some long ass word that somehow perfectly captures this idea.
So if anybody's got one, for the love of God, send it into the podcast. Email podcast@bscotch.net.
Did you say there was that one website?
Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows or something. I think it's what it's called.
Yeah.
That's true. It might be there. Although, how do you search it though?
That's the thing. I can't find it.
How do you look?
I think you have to just read the whole dictionary.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, actually,
that seems like a good.
We probably also need to read the whole German dictionary too.
I'm gonna try to just crowdsource this first. So if anybody knows the term for this,
always crowdsource.
It's about the feeling, not the investment. The feeling that's associated with this. Send it to podcast@bscotch.net.
The feeling of just having invested. That's
when it hurts bad to do so.
Right. It's a combination of the sorrow and the pride at the same time. So that's capturing that moment.
It's the pain of loss.
Pain, pride.
It's the pain of loss combined with the pride of knowing that it was the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. That's the definition of what word? I don't know. Pride, pain. Pain, pride.
Pain.
I don't know if we're going to be able to portmanteau our way out of this scenario.
The Germans do it best.
They do. I'll wait.
They're good engineers and they're good at engineering words as well. Okay, well, we'll just put that question out into the universe and see what comes back. We're going to boomerang this shit.
Yep.
Okay. All right, speaking of questions, let's get on to some questions. These questions come from our listeners over at podcast.bscotch.net. If you'd like to get your question onto a future episode, you can just go there and then do it. But ask a good one or else we won't answer it.
Yep.
Because we can't get to them all.
We'll also ask a good one that's somehow related to the podcast. That'd be a good idea too. Not just a good question in the general sense.
Yeah, related to the general stuff that we tend to talk about would be.
Yeah, because I have seen actually a bunch of good questions that are just way off base. You know,
do you have an example?
No, I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus or anything. But
get your bus pants on, because you're about to get thrown under it.
And then they'll keep you safe.
First question comes from Anonymous.
I wanted to ask: are bus pants? Are
these are the pants you wear to get ready
to get thrown under
the bus?
Okay,
because they have lots of like little hooks on them, so you can just get hooked under the bus.
Okay, now you're in there.
Now you're in there, and actually, that's how you take the bus to the bus.
Okay, so this is actually a way to get around the fare system, the ticketing system.
Yeah, and it's also a way
public transport.
It's also a way to get around the pain of being thrown under a bus. You know? So now you leverage your bus pants into you can just be a jerk to somebody.
If only we had a
throw you
word.
under the bus. You're like, cool, this is exactly what I
This is
want.
where I live.
You get hooked onto it, and you just get whatever you want
If
for
only
free.
we had a word for describing the pain of being thrown under a bus, but knowing that in the long term you're safe.
It's about right. Yeah. Someone give it to us. They need
It
it.
just isn't a word for that. Okay. Or maybe there is. All right. First question comes from Anonymous. As game devs, how do you feel when someone says they want to play a game where you can do anything? I say go outside.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're already playing.
you
one.
already can do anything.
What does that even mean?
Oh my God.
Well, I think
You can do anything.
usually all
Can you,
that,
though?
all
Not
that
really.
actually means is they just want to have a big world. That's usually
Or just play Grand Theft Auto.
Or playing Grand Theft
Yeah, I
Auto.
think
Criticize as close as you can get.
yeah, my answer to that would be go play Grand Theft
Well,
Auto.
Minecraft,
Because if you
those
want to
two.
do anything, what are you really saying?
What's the
What
power
are you
that
really
you're
saying?
What's the
there?
power that you're missing that you feel like you need to go do? Because it's either I want to go like murder people.
It's something that because it's something that you can't do in the real world. Otherwise, you'd just go do that, right?
Yeah.
So
So why not just get a game that lets you do the thing that you want to do?
Yeah.
Just because between all the games
just get one.
collectively,
Here's the thing.
With games, you can do
You can do anything.
Why
So
do you
just-
need to pack it all into
Don't
one?
put the responsibility.
This is your
of-
problem.
Yeah.
also, yeah,
Just do some introspection and figure out what you want. We
yeah,
can't
and the
give you
best
everything.
way to be able to do anything is to become a game developer because you can make your own universes in which you can do whatever you want.
But then whenever you play it, you have spent so much time making it that you find almost no joy in it.
That is
Yep.
true.
That's just life. The only thing you can't do is feel happiness. But you could do anything else.
Next question.
Next question comes from
Not my problem.
imcade. Have you ever had a bad experience with a game you were looking forward to and having it not live up to what you expected?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I think no. Diablo 3 the first time around.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that whole real money auction house
was the
thing was
dumbest-
a real shit in the stew.
Yeah, it was such a bad idea. It was
And
almost unbelievable.
It was so blatant. I mean,
Yeah.
I was taken aback at just how naked it was. They were just
Or
like
nude.
They were just like,
Whichever.
listen. We realized that in Diablo 2, people often exchanged items. And the game actually developed its own economy. There was a certain ring called a Stone of Jordan. People abbreviated as SOJ. And because gold was so plentiful in the game that gold was hyperinflated and became useless as a medium of exchange. So instead, people found it's basically a Bitcoin situation.
Yep.
SOJs, you had to mine them.
Yeah.
You know, they dropped at a certain rate from certain
The
bosses.
Stone of Jordan was the original Bitcoin, as
Yes.
it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would go and you'd go get your Sajas. And then if you wanted to get like a super badass legendary item, then somebody would be like, yeah, I need 10 Sajas for this. And you're like, shit. Then you got to go figure out how to get those Sajas. Or you find a good item, sell those for some Sajas, and then go make your trade, right? So the players developed their own currency using the mechanics of the game.
Which is part of the fun as a
awesome.
community, right? It's like, what are we going to use? Yeah, it's just a fun thing. And then, Diablo 3 rolls around and they're
Blizzard was like, how do we take a cut? How do we get in the middle?
which I feel like was so weird for them in particular too, because like they've generally done such a good job of just sort of knowing where to deliver value and when to ask for payment for that value.
Were they already bought by Activision at that
Yeah,
point? Because that
think
might
so.
explain everything.
Yeah, they were bought by, I believe, Vivendi, and then that got into Activision or something.
It's like a
that.
Russian nest.
Well, Vivendi
doll
owns
situation.
Activision also,
Okay,
right?
so some
Someone owns-
kind of ownership exchange happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
but it wasn't Blizzard operating fully independently at this point. But for me, the thing that made it so bad was that they changed everything about the loot system.
yes.
So that most of the time the items you got weren't useful for you. And instead they were intended to make you sell them on the real money auction house so that Blizzard could take a cut from the middle. You know, like they changed every mechanic of the game.
It was so weird. It's like what the game.
This
the game,
is like boardroom game design. you know?
the game by itself was already so good. Like just take Diablo 2, just make it better.
Just put the graphics
You're good
up.
to go. And they're like,
tighten
well,
up those graphics on level 3.
and this is something I actually look out for as a dev or any creative. If you have something new that you're putting into your design, when the whole thing already works, and to allow that thing to live in there requires basically reorienting how the whole design of that thing works to essentially serve that new piece. You really should ask a question like, is this really what we need to be doing? Is this really doing what we want? Because
What do we want?
That's a makeover of a game, right? In this
And
case,
you have to understand that the types of monetization that you choose for your game is going to inform the design.
Yeah.
And if you decide, like Diablo 3 is such a perfect example. If you decide that you as a company need to make money every time somebody kills a monster and a piece of loot drops, then that's gonna change some things.
Weird.
That's gonna change some
weird choice.
things. Yeah, I agree. But
it's great now.
Players
they undid it.
And it also created this bizarre thing where a bunch of players were like, ooh, I'm going to play Diablo 3 as my full-time job, and I'm going to sell things on the Real Money Auction House as a career now. And it created this weird like subculture of professional loot farmers. The whole thing was weird. And then they ripped it out after a couple years and fixed the game.
Yeah,
so it's a great game.
Necromancer's probably my favorite class I've ever played in one of those games.
Yeah. So sometimes
The Witch Doctor is pretty satisfying though, with the spider jars and
throwing jars of spiders,
throwing huge toads at people.
Yeah,
so good.
But the spider jars, I just love the idea of infinite jars of spiders.
Where are you getting?
He just got them
because there's something.
He's got a loin. He doesn't have pockets. Just loincloth.
There's something that feels like it makes sense about summoning spiders from the ether, right? Like I feel like cool, that's magic.
Where did the jars come from?
You know,
I mean, obviously you could summon a spider
because that means there has to be like some place in whatever the place that these are being summoned from that's just a bunch of jars of spiders. Right? There's like some dude sitting down here putting spiders in jars, just waiting for the witch doctor to summon them into the other universe.
Either he's summoning them or conjuring them.
Yeah,
and of course you don't conjure spiders. No. That's ludicrous.
Yeah,
they have to be.
Now here's a question.
I guess you could summon the spider and conjure.
You're also assuming that this is a one-part process. It's possible that he's summoning a spider from one part of the world and summoning a jar from like somebody's about to make strawberry preserves or something, and then just boop, their jar is gone.
And somebody else is like petting their pet
Somebody
spider.
else is hanging out with their spider. Boop, spider's gone.
I like the idea that this happens else. Like first the spider is taken from someone and then put in someone else's jar just for a brief moment.
And then
they have it,
long
and then
enough,
it disappears for
and
them to
then
recognize.
Hurled.
Yeah,
for them to recognize, like you're doing something with your strawberry jam, and then there's just this huge spider just appears in your jar.
Saying it's the spider goes in the jar first, and then they come together.
Because I feel like if the whole thing with the witch doctor class is that they cause horror, that has to be part of the process.
That is horrifying.
That's where the extra damage comes from. Is just the fear that the person making strawberry preserves feels. That gets imbued into the jar.
Yep.
It is just. I mean, it is hilarious to me though that whoever designed the concept that was what they wanted was. It wasn't just throwing spiders. It was throwing jars of spiders for some reason.
You're not gonna hold a spider. That's disgusting.
Spiders are dangerous, Adam. Yeah, they'll bite you.
But then you're just breaking infinite glass that you're just now breaking.
Well, that's part of the damage.
But you'd think you'd also damage your spiders.
No, they're fine. They're very resistant. The spiders never take damage.
That's true, actually. And then you summon invincible spiders, put them in glass jars.
What happens to do the spiders disappear or do they die?
I assume they end up getting. They do die.
I like the idea that if the witch doctor threw jars of spiders, but literally just as a projectile, like the spider died on impact. It's just there for fear factor, Yeah. The spider doesn't do anything because
you're just hoping it doesn't get on you. Yeah. And so then you're so stunned hoping the spider doesn't get on you that you just get hit by it. Yeah. Without even blinking.
Horrifying. I think that was the only game.
It's better than throwing a rock.
That was the only game in recent memory that I played where I had a lot of hype for it.
I was excited about it because I love Diablo 2. I had so much fun with that game. I was so excited about Diablo 3 coming out, and then it did, and I was like, shit. Oh.
Yeah. There's been a few that I've played.
I mean, I kind of felt the same about, honestly, while we're talking about Blizzard, I kind of felt the same about StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
Because they broke, I mean, here's the thing. It was a mixed bag because StarCraft 2 is amazing. Just like compared to the original StarCraft, especially, everything about it is just incredible. But I was kind of hoping for a complete package. Because in the original StarCraft, you played all three races and played through their campaigns. But in StarCraft 2, you only got the human campaign. And then you had to wait like a year and then they released.
I never did play through their campaigns.
I never bought the other ones. Yeah. Because I really enjoyed the first one, but I was like, well,
Isn't that funny? I didn't even remember that they didn't do that.
Yeah. So that was mixed.
But I will say I've had plenty of instances where I get a new Steam game, but just looking around and the reviews are positive, trailer looks nice, go play it, and then I'm like, what is happening? This has happened plenty of times. So I feel a little bamboozled by the overall
Yep.
Now, it's also the case that I've, just about any mobile platformer.
Yeah, we've been trying a lot of this.
We've been trying to find good ones, and if only somebody was making one.
Mm-hmm.
But
we'll get there.
Nobody we know. No, we are making one. All right. Next question comes from Haxplixer. You like free software, so would you like free games with no money grabbing system? I'm thinking for your jam games. So I'm not sure if they're asking if we would like to have free games.
Well, here, I want to make a correction. I don't like free software. I like good software.
Yeah, I like good software.
Some of it is free, which is great.
Not very much of it, but
not very much
of it
is,
though.
Inkscape being one of those things. So
and Linux
being another.
Mm-hmm.
So
those are the two.
Those are basically it.
Yep. I reasonably priced.
Audacity actually is good.
Audacity's free. Yeah. So
it looks like it was made 20 years ago. Actually, probably was.
That's
made
part of its charm.
Yeah. So as far as free games go, I don't care if they're free. I have never cared that games are free. What I care about is if they're good. So,
well, here's another question, because baked into this question is this phrase "money grabbing system."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting phrasing.
I've only seen it used when somebody just doesn't want to pay for something.
Yeah, grabbing my money.
Yeah,
I got all my money over here. People keep grabbing it.
Yeah, they'll call an event a money grab. Like when somebody releases a sequel or something, and people are just like, they're only doing this to grab my money. Like they're not.
It's very strange.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. Well, it's a very particular framing of the question.
Money. So also referred to as selling things.
Yeah, it's called selling things.
So
because there is an exchange happening.
Well,
you aren't just having your money taken.
So that kind of begs the question. So basically, the question is at what point, as a dev in particular, do you have what feels like the right to require someone to pay you for something that you made?
Because somebody can always say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why
then you just always have that right.
Yeah. Which is why at any time you have the right to charge for anything that you've made. Mm-hmm. And anybody else has the right to not buy it.
Yeah.
That's just a free market right
so
there.
As far as our jam games go, they are all free on itch. You just go play them. We also have 4 of our games that are completely free. They don't even have ads in them anymore. You could buy IAPs, but we're not good at that. So you don't have to. By any stretch of the imagination.
And interestingly, we got called greedy for putting in our purchases in those.
Yeah.
And we made far less money than we did when we just charged for the game up front. Mm-hmm. And people didn't call that greedy. And I don't understand what this word means anymore.
It's because when you as a player already have something and then it's requested that you pay for it after you've already acquired it.
Then that's greedy because it's already yours.
Exactly.
You know? If you buy it up front, you never had it to begin with.
This is the thing. It sounds unreasonable, but it's actually true. So, and this is an interesting note as a dev, is that all the reviews we've seen for our games, because we publish plenty of free ones now and then Crashlands. And if you publish a free game, your review score is always going to be lower than it would be if it was a premium game.
By a good, at least half a star.
At least half a star, if not a full one. And a big part of it comes from whenever you ask for money, when someone already has the thing, then
feels bad.
There's
just mad about it.
Yeah, the thing is you kind of get it where it's like if you go to say the grocery store and there's someone, they're like, hey, would you like to try some boar's head deli meat? And you're like, yeah, I'll get a free sample. You get a free sample. And then they're like, how about you take this package with you? It's $4. And you're like, no, fuck no. I came here for the free stuff. I got
but you're not angry about the fact that to get a whole pound of that boar's head delicious meat,
that's true.
You got to pay money for it because you're like, I understand how commerce works when you're in the context of a grocery store, but for some reason, when you go into a video game store on the internet in particular, you're just like, no, I should be able to have all this for free.
The rules of the earth don't apply in this realm.
Yeah,
so I need everything for free.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there are plenty of our games for free that you can go get. So just go do that if you don't want to pay us anything.
But they all got those money grabbing schemes.
That's just the dumbest way.
They do all have money grabbing schemes.
Because I think the other thing that's about it is that when it's almost applied like a meme now, right? Like there was a point probably where it was a good word to use with reference to a very particular thing. So, like the Diablo 3 real money auction house, for example. What?
Yeah, I think we could fairly call that money grab.
That was a bit of a
now here's the problem.
Because there was it actually made the game worse.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was no added value. There was no exchange that you were getting that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten.
Right. There's not added value.
Its only purpose was to put money in the hands.
So I think this is my actual beef with just sort of using some of these terms. when someone's literally like, I made a game and I'm asking you for money and you call it a money grab, because you ruin the ability of anyone to talk about an actual money grab when someone performs one in a realistic context.
Words have meaning.
Well, they don't actually. If you overuse the shit,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They need to have meaning.
Right. They need to. It's always, I guess, it's one of those interesting things where it's like, you know, you want indie devs, you want more indie games, but then when people ask for money, then you refer to it as a money grab when it's not, you know, in a context like this. And so I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, come on.
Yeah. And I think I know there are a lot of people who have this philosophy that that software and games, whatever, should just be free. Mm-hmm. And
that's a beautiful thought.
No, it's an absurd, horrible stance.
Yeah.
Because what you're actually saying is, I think people should make things for me and not be compensated for it. And I think it's completely within anybody's right to do that, to just make a thing for free and give it to people. And it's really spectacular and amazing that there are people who do that. But the fact is that almost every good piece of open source, you know, free thing that you have around you is not actually free. Somebody's paying for it because time is required to make it. So you did like, you know, my current programming language of choice, Node, right, is an open source, freely available thing. Except that the foundation that develops it is sponsored by Microsoft and Google and all these companies that throw a fuck ton of money at them because they understand the value of this thing. They're paying for it. And then we pay for it in turn because we see ads from Google and we buy Microsoft Windows from Microsoft, right? So we all have to pay for this stuff somehow.
Someone's paying for it.
Someone has to pay for it. And the idea that somebody should just make it for you is something I've seen a lot of in certain segments of the gaming and open source communities, and it's gross. That's not an attitude you should have.
That's where that hardcore pirate attitude comes from. Because I know there's actually a faction of people who are very proud to pirate everything. Like it's a point of pride. To never pay for software or anything like that.
Well, it's one of the tricks of not having self-awareness is to take pride in all of your failings.
Put that on a t-shirt. And failing to realize that all the stuff that makes your life better or that you want to have, somebody had to train their whole lives to get the knowledge to make it and then invest all of their time into creating it. And then you just take it. You take it. So,
I mean, the reality is the only reason that games cost as little as they do is because the market's so big. Yeah. So, for example, I mean, Crash Bandicoot took us 2 years to make. It's 3 people, 2 years of human time. And you get it for like $7 on mobile. Like, just shut up. Just shut up about the idea of it being a money grab. Because, I mean, the reality is that you get to these scenarios where I think if the reason it's only that it's able to be $7 is because of the fact that there's so many people to potentially buy it. Because the actual total value that was put into that, you know, 3 people being alive at a reasonable rate, or even if you count them as software developers, then of course the income or the salary goes way up for something like that. But even just 3 people being alive for 2 years is kind of an expensive feat, you know, in and of itself. Yeah. So it's just weird. Yeah.
So now I will say, you know, this took a little confrontational turn here. But I think it's important to, so as far as, you know, back to the original point of the question, whether somebody puts something out for free is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. The relevant question is it a good product? Is it a good piece of software? But I do agree with the general idea that just to be careful with your phrasing.
Yeah.
So we
also took this stance because every time I've seen money grabbing as a phrase, it's in the context of somebody complaining about the fact that they have to pay for something, just period.
Right. And even though they do get something.
Yeah. Which is not to say that that's what the question asker was getting at or anything like that. But every time I've seen it that way, that's what it meant. And it was exactly that mindset that it's like when people say, why should I pay you to make art for me? You should make art because you love to make art, right? It's exactly that same attitude, but then in the games industry. And it just makes me so angry.
So this is an interesting... This kind of comes back to an interesting question in game design. So I'm talking for just a second about the upcoming expansion in World of Warcraft and one of the changes that they've made, which is it used to be the case that there was 2 types of server that you could play on. You could play on a PvE server, which meant no other player can ever attack you, period. And then there was PvP servers, which meant that in most parts of the game, you could fight players from the opposing faction. So you're just out in the world doing a quest. You know, you're an orc, you see a gnome, and you're like,
I'm gonna kill it.
On, right? And then you start fighting.
I got my buzz pants.
Yeah, I got to get your buzz pants on, gnome. And it was generally accepted that because everybody on a PvP server chose to play on a PvP server, that they wanted that experience of like not quite knowing whether or not you were going to get into a fight.
It's very thrilling.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. You're out for a quest and you're like, is someone in the bushes? Am I going to get murdered?
So
very exciting.
So in starting, I believe, on Tuesday of this week, there's a pre-patch preparing for the next expansion where they've removed the concept of PvE and PvP servers. And instead, they have added a toggle that you can switch on your character called War Mode. When you're in War Mode, your character can be attacked by anybody from the opposing faction, but you gain a 10% XP boost for all the questing that you do, and you gain access to a handful of special sort of PvP-centric capabilities.
So greater risk, greater rewards.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what do you guys think?
Oh, this is horrible. Yep.
Now, what do you think the response to this was?
I'm sure the PvP players are like, yes.
They're like, this is already what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what do you think the rest of the players
They said, oh, now we have to.
Yes.
Now we have
they
to
said,
do this.
I am being forced
Yep.
to put myself into a position where I get attacked by other players so that I can level up faster.
Yep.
And so there's this huge outpouring of rage from players who are, quote, being forced to do this thing against their will, right? So this is, I think, it kind of comes right back to this question of being forced to pay for a product that you want to have, right?
Yep.
Which is failing to recognize the exchange that's taking place, right? And just only focusing on what you have to give up without acknowledging the thing that you're also getting in exchange for that thing.
And
So this isn't just limited to commerce. This is just a general human thing.
Entitlement issue.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're generally thinking about your half of the equation. It's
Right.
just how-
Other people get to have this thing. And yes, of course, they also have to give something up. I want to have the thing,
But I don't
want
want
to
to
give something.
And I'm outraged.
Why
that you would
can't
ask
they
that.
have it? Why can't I just have it without the other part? But they also do.
This is definitely this is generally going to be a nerve point for most game devs if they've been in the industry for more than like 2 years.
Yeah.
If you release at least one game, because honestly, like the amount of just nonsense that we read.
We've been accused of stealing children's lunch money before.
All kinds of fun stuff. But I remember when we first put out Butterscotch ID in Quadrupus Rampage, we included a feedback button because we were like, we just want to actually take advantage of this new platform
For
we
bug
have
reporting
to
and
get bug reports and stuff, right? And all we got was just this deluge of people just expressing hatred and vitriol because of buying things in the game.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the only thing that came through.
Well,
that
this happened in
feedback
Super
mechanism.
Mario Run.
Yep.
People were so mad, not that they got the first hour of the game for free, but that they didn't get the rest of the game for free. So it's
real weird. So I mean, this is part of the reason why we've clamped down our communications generally.
Oh, very tight.
Really, really tight. When it comes to any communication requests we do, I mean, even at the Ballot Hill, you'll see like the most recent one that just went out. There's a request for like, oh yeah, if you have something good that you want to share, feel free to reply and we'll look at it. Haven't got anything horrible in there yet, but
You will.
I will. I guarantee I will. And this is the shitty thing because it's like we love actually connecting with people about stuff, especially about the games or But you can't ever have a channel that's just negative free when it comes to this stuff.
I mean, I think we're doing a pretty good job of that with our Discord.
Oh yeah,
our Discord server, because I mean it's our community, so we enforce the rules, and we have a team of fantastic moderators who also understand what we're trying to build. So I think our Discord servers. I have no idea how we're going to keep it that way if we get several thousand people in there at the same time. It might just be mad chaos. I don't know.
Might just have to burn it down at that point.
Who knows?
Just can't have nice things,
Well, we'll see when we get there.
We'll see.
So, all right. Next question comes from a CoffeeChemist. You guys are allowed to take one creature and one character from one of your games. Who and what would it be and why? Personally, I'd
take it.
Just take it. You just have it now.
Okay.
It's yours. Personally, I'd have a Zug because it's super cute and I can find a way to have it charge my devices. Then I'd also have Juicebox because his single mind for what's important to him would keep me productive when I feel lazy.
That is fair.
Juicebox is kind of like a parent,
Yeah,
to
he's a good coach.
Flux.
Yeah.
It's like you got to do the dishes. You got to do your job.
Go get in there.
I don't care what you want to do. You got to do the thing that I need you to do.
I think I would take Bucket,
the walrus
from Quadrupus Rampage, because
much like the witch doctor,
he just summons buckets. Maybe we could help out this construction crew. Give him a few more buckets.
No, what these guys need is some fucking WD-40.
Yeah.
Just lube up that pulley, guys.
We should maybe just walk by there and just throw some into the bucket on its way up. Just like make use of this.
Maybe do this.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely take Bucket, and also because he's one of the least horrifying, because it's like kind of a walrus, which people are slightly familiar with, versus most of the other creatures. I mean, the government would take it. That's just. I was like, there's no way around it.
You've been walking around with your.
You summon a butter beast, or bring a Zug into the world.
You walking around with a Wampet on a leash.
Yeah, that's not going to fly. Someone's taking it from you.
The government will be like, "I'm sorry, we need this. We need this one-legged cow hippo."
Maybe not
for
that
science.
That one might get by because
people are like,
weird.
I don't want it.
I'd have to go with the glutterfly because it similarly summons things, but it summons glowing orbs, which just seemed like kind of a useful thing to have.
They do explode in a poisonous cloud.
Yeah,
so you got to be just a little careful.
But only if they get a certain distance away, so I can just like catch them earlier.
That's true.
Flux never tried this. I assume that if she just like got close and just like caught it, it'll be fine.
Get a mitt, and then you just
catch them.
And I would take GR18 actually for my buddy.
Yeah,
my character buddy.
I would probably go with a Gallum from the tundra of Crashlands.
Wait, which one? I always forget the Gallum.
It's the freaky metapod.
It's the one that's made of crystal that sort of like breaks apart and then teleports around.
What would you do with it?
I would just have it. Yeah, because I think the trouble is a lot. All these creatures are very dangerous.
Yeah, and
the Gallum seems like the kind of thing that probably doesn't have a lot of maintenance.
Because it's sort of inorganic.
It's mostly inorganic. I don't know what it eats, really.
Me neither.
So
does it even?
I don't know if it has a mouth.
I don't know. I think you do feed it in Crashlands, but I can't remember what you feed it or what comes out.
Who knows if you feed it? Maybe you just like rub it on.
Maybe you just sort of put it, just show it the thing, and it just absorbs it somehow. Because I think, then it's kind of like a house plant.
Yeah, it just kind of sits there.
Very low maintenance. It'll just kind of float.
But also good for home defense purposes.
Definitely.
Yeah, because it can be anywhere in your house.
It's horrifying.
Or a part of it can anyway.
A part of it can, and then it'll electrocute everything. So you got to be careful because that will probably interfere with your microphones.
Definitely.
In terms of.
You have to buy some real fancy microphones.
That would be very upset if you brought a Gallum in the office.
You brought a Gallum in the office. Character who I would take, that's a tough one.
I feel like it just has to be the robots,
Yeah, I feel bad about just like taking a person. Yeah. Like you're here
or
now.
even like quadrupus, anything that's fully sentient. Nah,
yeah, it's too much.
Just take Juice Box or GR18 or something.
Yeah, just take one of those robot companions. That would be good. imcade asks, what is the first album you ever owned?
Oh, owned. Oh, back when we bought CDs and stuff, like 100 years ago.
Well, I bought my first record last year.
Oh,
like a vinyl record.
Yep, which was very modern of you.
That was
weirdly.
I think it was Ed Sheeran's album.
He put it out on vinyl.
Yeah, it's good.
Does it truly sound better, like people say?
It's different.
I can't imagine how that would be true.
I don't know that it sounds slightly different, but it's more about the fact that when you play a record, you have to play it on purpose, and then you have to sit there because then it's going to flip over. Or you got to flip it at some point.
Yeah, you got to do maintenance.
You can't cue it up and just have it shuffle.
It's like Adam's like listening to an audiobook, right? I mean, it's a completely different experience from reading it.
Yeah.
In the same way that if you just are flipping through stuff on iTunes or whatever else, on your phone, in the car, whatever else, it's a very different experience than sitting down and putting down a record, putting the needle on it, and then letting it.
And you open the window and you say to the neighborhood, "I'm going to listen to music now." And you do it.
You broadcast it, yeah. So that was mine.
So I assume you also are wearing like a tuxedo while you're
probably you have a pipe.
Aside from that, I think actually the first
got some whiskey
I bought was Spice Girls. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was trying to remember because I know I had an ABBA CD.
You had ABBA and you had Ace of Base.
I had Ace of Base.
They're very good.
We also had some Weird Al, but I don't know who bought
Weird Al. I don't think that was our first though.
No.
I had a lot of Weird Al.
We had some Alanis Morissette.
Alanis Morissette, and then we had
Alanis Morissette and Amy Grant. I had that one.
Eiffel 65.
Oh yes, Eiffel 65.
That was
a lot.
much later though, because that was like I think I was in maybe 8th grade.
Yeah.
When that whole
The first one I bought, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I vaguely remember the CDs we had, but I don't know which one.
This is just the
was
first one
first.
you owned. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably ABBA. Given
I
the
think that's
time
a fair
period,
guess.
I think mine was probably Alanis Morissette.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jagged Little Pill, like 1995, something like
Definitely
that.
Spice Girls.
Spice Girls.
I was just living it.
Yeah, we were rocking out pretty good.
Yeah, we had pretty.
I still listen to those various groups.
Pretty sure I watched Spice World, their movie they made.
Yep.
I was all about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I don't remember the plot, but there were Spice Girls in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was
lot of
a
them.
whole
There
hell
was
of
not
a
a lot of plot, but there was a lot of singing. It was awesome.
I think the plot was the Spice Girls are going to do some singing.
It's basically
Let's watch.
And people are going to try to stop them, probably.
Yeah.
People are like, these Spice Girls. Maybe there was like an evil villain who doesn't.
He was
maybe
called
like Bland Man.
Yeah, exactly. He's
I
called
don't
like Only Pepper or something.
I only want spice in my world. I only want salt.
To be fair, that's not a bad single spice if you have to choose just one spice, you know?
That's the spice to choose if you can only choose
Yeah, that's true. If you can only choose one.
How come
I don't
there-
even think it counts as this. I think it's just
hold on.
It's a required food component.
What spices did each girl represent? Because I'm pretty sure
One of them was scary.
One of them was ginger. That is a spice.
That is a spice.
And there's baby, which is a
That's
horrifying
not a
spice.
which is not a
You
spice.
don't go sprinkling baby on steroids.
One of them was scary spice.
There was
right?
scary spice. I know
Scary,
spice.
sporty, posh.
None of these
Ginger
are
and baby.
spices.
Yeah.
Why did nobody call them out on this? I feel like this is a big
No,
problem.
they're too spicy. I don't care. You know?
I want to see a reboot. Now that we're in the age of reboots, I want to see salty spice.
Salty. He's just really angry all the time. And then there's turmeric.
And Szechuan.
Szechuan spice.
Just numbs you.
Yep. Just frigid.
I want to see ghost spice. It's just a ghost pepper dressed in a sheet with little holes cut in it, but also screaming in pain
It's so hot in there.
because she eats a ghost pepper at the start of every show. Whew.
Be a lot.
So she's like vomiting while she's singing and the
And
whole.
then ginger spice could just come back.
Ginger Spice is just still there because she was the only one who ever stuck to this fucking script.
Good job, Ginger.
The Spice Girls got for the first time. They're like, we need a band name. We're gonna call ourselves the Spice Girls. And Ginger was the first one, and she's like, I love Ginger. I want to be Ginger.
The other one's
then
like,
the other
we
one's
only
like-
put salt on our food. So
We don't really know any other spices, so I guess I'm baby. That's not
works for me.
okay. All right, we get time for one more question. This comes from the Ugly Turnip, who says, "Wait, is there a good looking? What do turnips look like?"
They're pretty ugly.
I'm sure, like, if you're a turnip, you'd be able to distinguish ugly from beautiful.
That's
turnips,
true.
That's
you know what I mean?
yeah. That's yeah.
We shouldn't stereotype.
Humans have we're very adept at recognizing human faces, you know, but probably to like a dog, we all kind of look the same,
I would
you
bet.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we all might be pretty ugly. I don't know.
Yeah. This is you also can't tell. Like
You
for
can't judge a turnip.
dogs also like kind of they're just all kind of look like dogs, you know, except for pugs, which are ugly.
Well, they're ugly
Definitely.
by human standards.
No, they're just ugly.
You know-
I don't think there's any standard along which.
Well, here's
they
the
are
thing: there's
not.
a lot of pugs, which means that it's
Some are
hard-
uglier than others. That's true.
Right, but I'm saying like maybe there's so many pugs because maybe by dog standards they're just the best looking
That's
dog.
true. You don't know.
You know, other dogs see a pug and they're like, nice. That is a flat ass face.
And the whole, like,
Those eyeballs are just they're just barely in
I
there.
love the sound of constant choking. Just gets me going.
Gets me going every time.
Yeah, my eyes are just too. They stay in my head too well. You know,
Saying is, you know,
I need
just-
something that
can't-
doesn't.
You can't be so species centric, you know, because if
I mean, that's fair.
By human standards, yes, maybe turnips just aren't that sexy.
Yeah.
But by turnip standards,
Who knows?
you know, there's a whole range. There's a whole range in
That's
there.
fair.
You know, if we ever meet aliens, it's important to make sure that you open up your mind
Yep.
to different beauty standards.
That's right.
Because we have no idea
Yeah.
what they're going to need from us. All right. So the Ugly Turnip says,
What they're gonna need from us?
well, obviously, if
What does that imply?
listen,
It's a hell of a way to exit that conversation. get out of the question.
Listen, if the aliens show up, then they are more advanced than we are, right?
They need us to what? Like
they need us to look around and be,
contests?
no, they need us to look around. They need us to sit around and be pretty.
That's what they need us to do.
That's what they need us to do, which means we need to understand what they need from us in terms of beauty standards.
Sure,
right? We gotta, because we're gonna be the ones on the bottom of the technological hierarchy.
I haven't cried to podcast in a long time.
All right. The Ugly Turnip says, recently you talked about how you helped create One Epic Night. I grew up on the game and would love to know more about it. Can you tell us the juicy bits and how you created the game?
I don't even remember. What was that, 6 years ago?
2012.
2012.
The year the world ended.
My favorite part about it was that we did this battery of tests, like a huge QA test. Brought a bunch of people in, and we were testing all sorts of stuff.
1,500 people.
Yeah, in like one day. We went to a mall.
We did a bunch of A/B tests where we ripped parts of the game out, changed a bunch of things, and then we would test the two versions of the game against each other.
And it was a very involved thing. And we thought, surely there's going to be some good data in here about how people use this thing. And so whole day goes by, and I'm like very excited. This is my
surely
thing.
There will be there was your first problem.
Yeah. And so we finish this thing, and I go and I just sort of do the first crunch of the numbers, and just nothing's coming out. Like there's nothing is meaningful.
So we, for example,
and just needed to test more things because then one will come out just by chance.
I guess.
Well, and so for example, in one version of the game, we just took the music out.
Yeah,
the game is just completely silent except for sound effects.
That was supposed to be an obvious case. That was one of the ones where like, okay, this should be a thing.
Yeah, this is going to change the mood,
right? Because we should be
people will notice.
We should be able to test not only are we like these things that we don't know if they're going to make the game better, but obviously music makes the game better, right? So if we take it out, we should see this show up and no change in response to any aspect of the game. Then we were like, what if we, we tried things like changing the speed of the game to make it harder. No change. We tried changing the camera to have a much wider field of view so that it feels like you're going a lot faster, right? So like basically leave the game balanced the same, but change the way you perceive it. No change. What else happened? It was just like nothing worked. And it was one of the funniest
every
things.
Single thing we changed gave us exactly the same outcome.
And I felt like such a fool.
Well, for me, that was a very
like,
liberating moment because people get so worked up on like, what are people going to like? What are people not going to like? And the answer is people don't even fucking know.
No one knows.
They don't notice almost any of the things that you will do.
Yeah, I mean, if you gave a person the same game with and without music, and we're like, which one of these two do you like better?
They'll like the music.
They're going to like the music better. But if you just give it to them without music in a mall where there's all kinds of shit happening.
Yeah, but we give them headphones.
They were listening to it.
Yeah. So you give them in the absence of any other context, and they don't have anything to compare it to now.
Yep. Exactly. So people just evaluate something as is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So that was a bunch of the goofy stuff there. Otherwise, that was just a really fun project to work on because endless runners are so fun immediately. And then it was just like,
then it's just all downhill,
gravy.
Yeah, uphill, some kind of hill. It's
whatever a good hill is. That's what it was. So you just like start stacking stuff in there, and like the enemies make it more fun and all that stuff. And so I don't know, that was a fun one to work on. And the designers did a bunch of really interesting and cool stuff as far as the lane change system. And then there's a bunch of stuff in there that all of us loved a bunch. So I wish it would have gone as gangbusters to something like Subway Surfers, which I think crossed like 1 billion.
Subway Surfers came out 2 weeks before One Epic Night did, or something like that. The real issue is like we took too long to make the game. Yeah, and this was on the heels of the popularity of Temple Run.
There's a ton of these 3D.
A bunch of other studios had the same idea, and we launched like a month in to the sudden surge. And by the time the game came out, most of the reviews were something like 3 out of 5 stars. Game is fantastic and I love it, but I'm sick of this genre. Yeah. Like
that's a bummer. Yeah.
So they're not evaluating it on its merits. They're evaluating it in the context in which it was launched, which is a really
important thing to note. And I was watching a little video from, I think it was from Total Biscuit, it's called The Failure of an Indie Platformer, which is really good if you're in game dev in particular. And one of the things he mentioned was that, everyone thought that platformers were going to have had this huge resurgence because Super Meat Boy appeared, right? And Braid came shortly before that as a puzzle platformer. But the reality has been that there's tons of platformers coming out on Steam, and nearly all of them do very poorly, and including this game that he was talking about in sort of in a long form. And, he mentions at one point that trying to charge or showing via price that your game is exactly the same as the other ones, like selling it in this case for like $10 on Steam alongside all the other $10 platformers, meant that the price was signaling that there was no increase in quality, right?
Yeah.
And so One Epic Night was another example of this, where like it was a free game alongside all those other free runners, and it's one of those things where like it's just hard to know what would have made that somehow stick a bit better, like that Subway Surfers game did or something else like that. Besides timing, but
yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
And as we learned, probably most of the things that happened didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was fun to work on the voiceovers, though.
Yeah, I just got to go scream in a room.
So that was Sam's voice as the voice of the night. And Sam and I would just go into one of the office rooms and then just come up with lines and record them. About 3/4 of the stuff we came up with got rejected for being too weird.
Mm-hmm. That's all the stuff that goes in our games now, though.
Yeah,
basically.
All those cut lines from One Epic Night became Butterscotch Shenanigans. But some of the ones I was pretty. I don't remember if we kept the one "Help! I'm being chased by a camera." I fucking love that one.
We kept that one, yeah. Because he just starts running.
He just takes off running into the dungeon, and the camera follows him. And he's just like, "Help! I'm being chased by a camera." Like it was almost like a Deadpool level of awareness.
A lot of fourth wall breaking stuff.
Yeah, or like because several of the designers came up with a bunch of lines, and then we took them and sort of murdered them.
Sassy.
Because one of the designers was like, "What about the line? Another day, another dungeon?" And I was like, "Yeah, except it's night." And it's the same dungeon, so
we'll just put that
we'll
in
tack
there.
that on the end. So then he goes, "Another day, another dungeon, except it's night, and it's the same dungeon."
Yeah, I think the voice recording was my probably biggest contribution to that whole thing. So that was, of course, my favorite part because that's what I did.
Yeah, and now you do the trailers for our stuff. And
started my vocal career, some would say.
It helps that you already had a weird way of talking.
I do. And I did.
But Adam and I, we sound completely. Adam and I sound completely different.
I will continue to do so.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. We'd like to thank our producer, Fat Bard, for making us sound good. Thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord and forums running. If you'd like to, I assume we still have forums. I don't know.
Nobody's told me that they're down. So yes,
they're up. Check them out wherever they are. If you'd like to get more involved in the Butterscotch community, you can hop into our Discord server at discord.gg/bscotch and come say hello. Also, if you'd like to adorn your body with Butterscotch merch, or if you'd like to adorn your desk with Butterscotch mug, we've got mugs and merch and stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
And those are over at shop.bscotch.net, including the world famous Can We Not mug, which is a mug which says "Can we not" on the side.
So you can just hold it during meetings.
Anytime you're in a meeting, you're in the office, people always know that you are vetoing every single thing that they are saying, which is it's a good power move.
The only thing you shouldn't apply it to is buying it.
Yeah, correct. You must buy it. Yep. It's sort of like it's the one purchase you need to make
to negate all future purchases.
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, it's actually a really good just savings strategy.
It is. It's an investment, and the kind of the.
If only there was
a word for how you would feel when you bought that mug.
Pain of,
but there isn't.
A couple dollars.
Yeah,
lifetime.
Anyways, so if you want to get involved in that whole money grab, that's over at shop.bscotch.net. Also, if you'd like to send us whatever, like a piece of licorice or something like that, you can send that over too.
I think I'm the only one who likes real licorice, though. The black stuff.
Yeah.
You are the only one
in the office.
In the entire planet.
I'm saying you're the only one.
Your taste buds disgust me.
Maybe
they are pretty gross if you look at them.
Maybe, but taste buds?
Yeah,
they're hideous. Don't look at them, especially the ones in the back.
Yeah, those are the worst.
They're huge. Who gave them permission to get that large?
What are they doing back there? They're trying to find.
I don't feel huge tastes back there. Why are they so big?
Well, you don't feel huge taste because there's only like 3 of them. There's like 3 giant boils on the back of your tongue.
I feel like I should be able to detect.
What is that? What's back there? Sweetness? Saltiness?
Oh no, that whole thing is all bullshit.
That's all bullshit?
Yeah. They're still teaching it, even though it's been known to be bullshit for like 60 years.
Really?
Yeah, the whole like
we
parts
learned
of your tongue that taste
20 years ago.
I know.
And they had known it was bullshit for 40 years before that.
Dang.
Science is crazy, man.
It turns out people don't update textbooks, especially for kids. So we're all
learning. Paying so damn much for them?
No, that's fair. Well, actually, did they cost anything when we were kids? I think it's only college.
Well, the schools buy them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, anyways,
it's all a racket.
It's all a big racket. It's all some kind of, it's just a big money grab. All right. Also, if you'd like to send us whatever, you can find the address over at mailbox.bscotch.net.
Unless you want to send us tips, in which case you do that.
If you want to just send us just big fat stacks of cash, you can
actually has to go through the mailbox too.
You guys are too much.
Although I'm pretty sure that's illegal, so don't.
Don't send us cash in the mail. Send it directly to our bank account via tips.bscotch.net.
Yep.
And that's all the time we have. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.